There's a truth that very few people dare to say out loud. A truth that, if you truly listen to it today, could change the course of your life or the lives of those you love. That truth is this: most deaths that happen after the age of 75 aren't just fate. They're not destiny. They happen because we've grown too used to seeing aging and passing away as something inevitable, something natural, something that can't be helped. From the time we're young, we're taught that old means weak, old means sick, and eventually, old means death. So when we see someone elderly pass away, we nod and say, well, they were old. But what if I told you that many of those tragedies didn't have to happen? Would you still accept them so easily? The greatest danger in old age isn't always the things we can clearly see. It's often the silent changes, the ones that creep in quietly without warning. A stroke can hit on an ordinary morning while you're just making tea or getting ready for a walk. A simple slip in the bathroom, something that seems minor, can leave you bedridden for the rest of your life. A lingering cough that goes untreated can quietly turn into pneumonia. And perhaps most heartbreaking of all is when you suddenly can't remember the name of the son you love most, and that forgetting slowly pulls all your memories and your inner world into a hollow, empty space. These things don't happen by chance. They build up over the years. They start with the smallest moments of neglect, brushing off your fatigue because that's just part of getting old. A lifelong habit of eating salty food without thinking. Skipping exercise because even walking feels tiring. Ignoring health checkups because it's probably nothing serious. And by the time the consequences arrive, it's no longer about a single day or a single symptom, but a string of days that can't be undone. Old age doesn't kill people. It's complacency that quietly shortens lives. What weighs most heavily on me isn't the statistics or the medical studies. It's the real stories around us. A father who once held the family together, a mother who cared for everyone, and then with one fall, one breathless moment, one lapse in attention, they're suddenly in a state they can never come back from. After 75, every change in the body becomes more serious, and there are fewer chances to fix what's been broken. Just a delay of a few weeks can send things in a direction no one wants. But here's the beautiful part. If you catch it in time, if you're willing to begin again, even with the smallest steps, you can absolutely slow down the decline. In many cases, you can even make significant improvements. And it all begins with awareness, with understanding that not everything that happens in old age is natural. Much of it is a consequence, and consequences can be changed if we know how. That's why I want to walk with you through the 5 leading causes of physical decline and even death after age 75. Not to scare you, but to help you become more proactive, more alert, and more prepared to protect yourself and the people you love. And the first cause, the biggest one, the quietest one, but also the most devastating, is heart disease. Among all causes of death after 75, heart disease tops the list. It doesn't make a scene, it doesn't give a warning. And that's exactly why it's one of the most terrifying silent killers. Many people still go about their lives as usual, cooking breakfast, picking up their grandkids from school, watching TV with the family at night. And then one day, it's just a strange tiredness, a short breath, and a regular heartbeat. And they never wake up again. People often say life and death are already written in the stars. But in so many cases, what we call fate is really the result of not listening closely enough to our own bodies, not understanding the subtle but meaningful signals the heart sends us every single day. What makes heart disease so dangerous isn't the sharp, dramatic chest pains we see in movies. It's the vagueness, the quiet, the familiarity. So familiar, in fact, that people no longer recognize it as something abnormal. A little shortness of breath climbing the stairs, a wave of fatigue after eating, a brief heaviness in the chest that quickly passes. And then we shrug it off with a simple phrase, "It's just old age." That very phrase has delayed countless people from getting checked, from making lifestyle changes, from fighting for their own lives. One of the biggest causes of heart disease is high blood pressure. And the frightening thing about high blood pressure is, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't warn you with sirens or drum beats. It warns you with silence. You're still walking, eating, living your daily life, without realizing that your blood vessels are slowly tightening. Every salty meal, every fried dish, every day spent sitting still, they're all quietly wearing your heart down, making it harder for blood to circulate, forcing your heart to work much harder than you think. There's a story I want to share with you. Mrs. Lan, 68 years old, lives in Bin Duong. She used to take blood pressure medication daily. She often felt heavy-headed, easily tired, and sometimes had chest discomfort, but she always thought it was nothing serious. One day, her daughter took her for a full checkup. That's when she found out her blood pressure had reached dangerous levels. From that day on, she began to change. Nothing big, just less salt at mealtime. Her food got a little blander. She cut down on fatty meats, added more fish. Instead of sleeping in, she started walking a few laps around the yard in the morning, breathing deeply, doing gentle exercises. She even played soft music and made a point to smile more each day. 6 months later, she went back for a follow-up. The doctor said she could reduce her medication. And the most wonderful thing? She didn't feel old anymore. She smiled and said, "It's like I'm 10 years younger." We don't need a perfect heart. We just need a heart that's cared for every single day with simple, consistent acts of attention. It's never too late to start, but the sooner, the better. Remember, after age 75, a healthy heart doesn't just help you live longer. It helps you live independently, joyfully, and with quality. You can carry your grandkids, go to the market, garden, travel with your children. All of that begins with keeping your heart beating steady, strong, and never forgotten in the routine of daily life. And if you're thinking, "But I still feel fine, what's there to worry about?" Then please remember this. It's exactly the silence of heart disease that makes it more dangerous than almost anything else. But the heart isn't the only part of us silently bearing the weight of our neglect. There's something else, just as dangerous, yet often overlooked. And that is falling. You might be surprised to learn that many elderly people don't pass away from chronic illness, but from a single fall that seemed harmless. Not because the fall itself was too severe, but because of the chain of events that followed, which their aging bodies couldn't recover from. What seems like a minor accident in youth can pass quickly, but in old age, it can take away dignity, independence, and sometimes the rest of a person's life. So what turns a simple stumble into the start of a long, painful decline? Let's keep going and take a closer look at why falling, something we often dismiss, can become a turning point that changes everything in our later years. Let me tell you a true story, one that happened in Bak Liu, an elderly woman, over 80, living with her children and grandchildren. Still healthy, still going to the market each morning, still cooking, caring for her grandkids, just like anyone else. That day was just an ordinary afternoon. She went into the bathroom. The floor was a bit slippery. She misstepped, fell. It didn't hurt much, so she didn't say anything. She thought, it'll feel better tomorrow. But the next morning, she couldn't stand up. Her family rushed her to the hospital, and the X-ray revealed a fractured femoral neck. Surgery was necessary, but at her age, it wasn't simple. What followed were weeks of immobility, complications from infection, muscle weakness, and frailty. From someone who had lived independently, she became completely dependent, no longer able to walk on her own. No more market trips. No more sitting on the porch chatting with neighbors. She started speaking less, smiling less, and eventually, she stopped trying altogether. You might think, that's sad, but what can you do? But the real heartbreak isn't that it happened unexpectedly, it's that it could have been prevented. No fancy tech, no expensive medicine, just a bit more attention to the little things. A slippery rug on the floor, replaced with a non-slip mat. A staircase with no railing. Add one handrail and you've already cut the risk in half. A dark corner in the bedroom, a motion sensor nightlight could save a life. And more important than all that is the strength of your legs. Even just a few minutes of movement a day makes a difference. No need to run or hit the gym. Just standing up and sitting down the right way, lifting your heels, rotating your knees, practicing light balance next to a chair. These simple exercises are the very shield that helps the body stay steady. There's also something few people notice. Many of the medications older adults take daily, heart meds, blood pressure pills, neurological drugs, can cause dizziness, postural hypotension, and loss of balance. Without careful monitoring, even a familiar medication could quietly contribute to a dangerous fall. But more devastating than the fall itself is the fear that comes afterward. Many people, after their first fall, become too afraid to walk. They avoid going outside, avoid exercise, avoid even standing up to get a glass of water. That fear becomes an invisible cage, gradually reducing their movement, weakening their bodies, and making another fall even more likely. A vicious cycle, triggered by just one fall, can push someone into a darkness not of death, but of helplessness, confinement, and emotional collapse. Falling isn't just a physical issue, it's a battle of belief. When an elderly person can still walk, they still feel like themselves, still in control, still capable of taking care of themselves, still not a burden. The freedom to move, therefore, isn't just convenience, it's a vital part of dignity. And if we, the children and grandchildren, can help our parents and grandparents stay steady on their feet and hold on to that sense of self, then that is truly a priceless gift. Maybe right now you're thinking, but I can still walk fine, no need to worry yet. But take notice. Do you get dizzy when you stand up? Do your legs sometimes feel weak when you walk? Does your staircase have a railing? Is your bedroom well lit at night? These tiny things are what will decide how long you get to live healthy, live freely, live on your own terms. And on this journey, there's one more thing, just as important, that often goes overlooked. Breath. Breathing seems so natural, but after 75, it can become a true struggle. A battle between each short breath, every lingering cough, and the fear that rises every time you lie down. Let's take a closer look so we can understand why air, something everyone has, can become so heartbreakingly precious when our lungs no longer work like they used to. Air is life. We enter this world with a cry, grow up breathing in and out as if it's the most natural thing in the world. But at some point, when breathing becomes an effort, life itself starts to feel more fragile than ever. Many people over the age of 75 begin to fight to breathe. Something that once happened automatically, without a second thought, becomes a nightly struggle. Pneumonia, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, late-onset asthma, persistent shortness of breath. These aren't sudden storms. They sneak in quietly, building up day by day. It often starts with a mild cold, a little cough. One day you feel slightly winded during a walk. Then the cough lingers. There's more phlegm. Your breaths become shallow, and suddenly lying down feels suffocating. A small drop in temperature, a strong breeze, can make your whole chest tighten. Mrs. Bay in Hugh is a perfect example. She used to be active, sweeping the yard, watering the plants, cooking for her whole family every morning. One time, she caught a mild cold, just a few coughs and a low fever. She didn't pay much attention, but the cough didn't go away. She started getting winded after only a few steps. At first, her family thought she's just getting older. But when she finally saw a doctor, they discovered damage in her lungs, signs of chronic inflammation, and the early stages of COPD. From a healthy, independent woman, she became someone who depended on medication, an oxygen tank, and the support of her loved ones. Each night turned into a waiting game, not for sleep, but just to make it through the feeling of suffocation. Her world began to shrink. No more mornings in the yard, no more long conversations, no more carefree laughter. The scariest part is that so many people, just like Mrs. Bay, have no idea their lungs are being damaged. Because respiratory diseases in older adults don't start with a bang. No intense pain, no high fevers. They creep in through secondhand smoke, from an old charcoal stove, from a cluttered house, from the polluted, damp city air. And every day, bit by bit, the lungs weaken without anyone noticing. But the good news is, respiratory illness can be prevented if we act early enough. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need to live in luxury. You just need to pay attention to the air around you. Keep your home well ventilated. Avoid cigarette smoke, stove smoke, dust, and mold. If possible, use an air purifier in the bedroom. It can make a big difference. If not, simply open the windows in the morning. Keep houseplants to filter the air, and maintain a clean, dry living space. And there's something else that often goes overlooked. Flu and pneumonia vaccines can save thousands of lives every year. Don't wait until you're already sick. Get vaccinated regularly, as recommended by your doctor. One small shot could mean years of healthy living, without hospital stays, without needing oxygen. And remember, lungs need exercise too. Every morning, just a few minutes of gentle walking, a few deep breaths in and slow exhales. That alone helps keep your lungs elastic, your air exchange efficient. You might think, how much can a few deep breaths really help? But that simple act is nature's cheapest, most powerful medicine. Breath is life. And when you can still breathe deeply, fully, and evenly, it means you still have the ability to live each day to the fullest. But when the lungs begin to fail, every task feels heavy. You don't want to walk, don't want to talk for long, don't want to eat, and slowly you retreat into a smaller, quieter existence, in a corner of your home with a lingering cough and an oxygen tank by your side. That's not the life you want, and it's certainly not the life any of us want for the people we love. So don't wait for clear symptoms to appear. Start protecting your lungs now. But breath isn't the only thing that can suddenly abandon us. There's another enemy, more dangerous, faster, and often leaving no second chance, that silently stalks people in their later years. It doesn't come from smoke or bacteria. It doesn't begin with a cough. It comes in a moment no one is prepared for. That enemy is stroke, a sudden, merciless event that rarely gives you time to make it right. A stroke hits like a storm, unexpected, violent, and devastating. There's no warning, no heads up, no time to prepare. It might be a peaceful afternoon, you're sipping tea, chatting with family, and in the blink of an eye, someone collapses. One side of the body stops moving, a panicked look in the eyes, mouth open, but no words come out. And everything after that changes completely. Nothing shakes you more than watching someone who was once alert, strong, full of life, suddenly become motionless, unable to speak, unable to care for themselves. A stroke doesn't just paralyze the body, it pushes the spirit into a deep pit of helplessness and pain. Mrs. Tu in Vin Long knows this all too well. She was capable, took care of the whole household, still cooked, looked after the grandchildren, cleaned every day. That day, she just complained of a bit of dizziness. Her family told her to lie down. Everyone thought she was just tired. But then she never got back up. Part of her brain was permanently damaged. She lost the ability to speak. And from that moment on, she lived in silence, only able to look at her children and grandchildren with sad eyes, unable to call their names. That silence sometimes hurts more than tears ever could. What makes strokes so dangerous is that they rarely come from one clear cause. They come from things we think are harmless, but build up silently every day. High blood pressure, for example, is the most common cause of stroke, but most older adults live with high blood pressure without even knowing it. No pain, no fever, no obvious signs, until one day, a blood vessel in the brain bursts or is blocked by a clot and everything collapses. Another commonly overlooked factor is atrial fibrillation, a type of irregular heartbeat. When the heart beats out of rhythm, blood doesn't flow smoothly and clots can form. And all it takes is one clot traveling to the brain for a stroke to occur. But here's the hopeful part. Medical studies show that up to 80% of strokes can be prevented. You just need to do a few simple everyday things, consistently. Check your blood pressure regularly, at least once a month. If you have heart disease, take the right medication, exactly as prescribed. Cut down on salt, avoid fried foods, eat more vegetables, fish, and fresh fruit. Get light daily exercise. Walk around the yard, stretch your arms, practice deep breathing. And most importantly, listen to your body. Many stroke survivors say afterward, "I felt dizzy a few days before." Or, "I was having trouble speaking, but thought I was just tired." If those signs had been noticed sooner, if they had gone to the doctor in time, a life could have been saved. And never forget, a stroke doesn't just rob someone of their physical abilities, it robs them of their dignity. When someone who once walked freely, cooked with their own hands, and cared for themselves becomes someone who needs to be spoon-fed, changed, bathed. The pain isn't just in the body, it's in the soul. None of us want to spend our final years in a cold hospital bed, staring helplessly at our loved ones, unable to say a word. So the most important thing isn't how old you are, it's what you've done to protect yourself from that risk. One proactive step today could be the difference between a life of health and clarity, and a tragedy that can't be undone. But stroke isn't the end of the worry. There's something else, slower, quieter, but just as painful, that is creeping into the lives of millions of elderly people. It doesn't come crashing down like a stroke. It comes in fragments, broken pieces of memory, moments of forgetting your grandchildren's names, flashes of confusion in front of familiar faces. No longer knowing where you are, no longer remembering what day it is, no longer recognizing the people you love most. This is what we must confront: dementia. When memories fade, it's not just memory we lose, it's ourselves. There is nothing more heartbreaking than when a mother forgets her own child's name. Not because she's angry, not because she no longer loves them, but because, in her mind, the threads that hold her memories together have started to unravel, bit by bit, day by day, and no one can tie them back the way they were. Dementia doesn't arrive like a storm. It comes like a mist. Light, almost invisible, but creeping in deep and quiet. At first, just forgetting a name. Then a missed appointment. Then asking the same question again and again. And one day she forgets a pot cooking on the stove and burns the kitchen she once knew by heart. Mrs. Sao, a retired teacher in Nha Trang, was once known for her sharp memory. She could recall the names of all her students, even decades after they'd graduated. Every night, she read poetry, did crossword puzzles, and kept a journal. But in just 2 years, she began to forget everything. Once, she came back from the market and couldn't remember the way home. Another time, she looked at her grandson and asked, "Who are you? You look just like little T." Even though T was her own grandson, the one she'd held in her arms every day. Dementia isn't just about forgetting names. It's about losing pieces of who we are. Memories, faces, chapters of a life, fading away, growing distant, until they disappear into a world the person no longer recognizes. But the pain doesn't stop there. Dementia brings with it a storm of risks: forgetting to take medication, skipping meals, not dressing properly for cold weather. Or worse, wandering away from home, lost in the crowd, not knowing how to return. And just one of those moments can lead to irreversible consequences. Many people think it's normal when older adults become forgetful, repetitive, or a bit confused. It's just old age, they say. But in reality, if detected early and addressed promptly, the progression of dementia can be significantly slowed. The solution doesn't lie in expensive medication. It lies in small, simple things, done consistently every single day. First, keep the brain engaged. Read books, do crosswords, practice handwriting, learn a new skill, look at old photos and retell old stories. These activities keep the brain active, like training a muscle, so it stays stronger, longer, and degenerates more slowly. Second, proper nutrition. Foods that support brain health, like fish, berries, leafy greens, and nuts, can slow the aging of brain cells. Drinking enough water and getting vitamins like B complex and omega-3s might seem minor, but they have long-term impact. Third, gentle physical movement. Walking, tai chi, slow cycling not only benefit heart health, but also improve blood circulation to the brain, which is vital for memory and focus. And lastly, but perhaps most important of all, emotional connection. Elderly people don't need much in the way of material things. What they do need is someone to talk to, someone to listen, someone to remind them that they are still loved and still a meaningful part of the family. Did you know that just having someone talk to them each day, ask how they're doing, share a meal, tell a story, can help keep their mind clearer, longer, deeper? Dementia is not just a medical condition. It is a test of love, of patience, and of how we choose to walk alongside one another in old age. Memories may fade. There may come a day when they no longer remember who they are. But if in those final moments they still feel loved, still feel a familiar hand, still hear a voice they once knew, then they have never truly been lost. And if there's even one thing we can do to hold on to them, just a few more months, a few more clear-eyed years, then why not start today? Because aging, after all, is not the end. It can and should be a new chapter. Quiet but profound, slow but worth living, fragile but filled with dignity. And if we understand the 5 leading causes that bring our elders down too soon, heart disease, falls, respiratory illness, stroke, and dementia, then we also hold the key to extending those peaceful, joyful years. Sometimes people only truly live when they've already walked most of life's path, because it's only in old age that we become quiet enough to listen, slow enough to observe, and deep enough to grasp what really matters. If you're still here, still listening all the way to the end, then you still have time. Time to change. Time to take better care of yourself. Time to live out your remaining years not just surviving, but truly living. Old age, when you think about it, isn't a final sentence. It's a different chapter in the book of life. Not as dazzling as youth, but rich enough to be remembered. not loud or rushed, but warm and meaningful in its own gentle way. No one can turn back time, but everyone can choose how to live what's left. And the best part is, living better doesn't start with something big. It starts with just one less spoonful of salt at dinner, one morning where you rise and stretch, one blood pressure check, one longer conversation, one sincere check-in with your parents, your grandparents, or yourself. Health doesn't come on its own. Memory doesn't preserve itself. And longevity is not some random gift. It is the result of small habits repeated every day. So what matters isn't how old you are. What matters is whether you've chosen to live the right way yet. Don't wait until your heart is tired to start loving it. Don't wait until you've fallen to wish you'd protected your legs. Don't wait until your memory slips away to regret the conversations you never had. And don't let the day come when you say, if only, because by then it may be too late. You still have time, maybe years, maybe months, maybe a long, vibrant journey ahead if you start today. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's how you show gratitude for this life and for the people who still love you. And if something in this video touched you, made you pause, made you feel, then let that be your beginning. Maybe it was the image of a father struggling to catch his breath. Maybe it was a mother's confused eyes, unable to recognize her own child. Maybe it was a story that sounded just like your own family. Whatever it was, if it reached you, don't let it pass by unnoticed. Leave a few words in the comments, not to complain, but to connect. Because sometimes your story might be the wake-up call someone else needs. Your small piece of wisdom might save another life. And if you found something valuable here today, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications, not just to receive more helpful insights, but to be part of something greater, a community where aging is no longer seen as helpless, slow, or the end. Old age doesn't have to be something to fear. It can be where life's most meaningful lessons are finally lived. A time to love more freely, to forgive more easily, and to live more slowly, but more truthfully. Thank you for walking with me all the way to the end of this journey. I look forward to seeing you again in future videos, where we'll not only talk about health, but also about wisdom, peace, and the true meaning of living a full life. Wishing you, and everyone you love, good health, deep serenity, and a gentle, graceful passage through the years ahead.